Power has always had a face, and more often than not, that face has belonged to the alpha male. From the courts of kings to the halls of democracy, the alpha has ruled not merely by decree but by presence, the magnetic force that bends men to loyalty and women to fascination. In this episode, we look back through history to see how the alpha archetype shaped entire civilizations, from absolute monarchs to modern statesmen, and how, even in our supposedly egalitarian age, he still commands the stage. To point out alphas in history almost feels redundant. For most of history, they were history. Before democracy and bureaucracy, power naturally gathered around charisma and dominance, traits intrinsic to the alpha male. Every age of weakness eventually summoned an alpha to restore order. Augustus after Rome's civil wars, Henry VIII after the Wars of the Roses, Napoleon after the French Revolution. But in the modern egalitarian world, the alpha has had to adapt. The charisma that once inspired loyalty now provokes envy. Democratic societies distrust overt masculine dominance. They praise charm yet punish grandeur. Still, the political alpha hasn't vanished. He's gone underground. His instincts remain, refined, concealed beneath etiquette. He no longer keeps public harems or orders executions, yet the archetype persists. John F. Kennedy was the first unmistakably modern alpha, a man of style and danger who nearly died in the Pacific after his PT-109 was destroyed, who stared down the Soviets in the Bay of Pigs in the Cuban Missile Crisis, and who, behind the facade of bourgeois respectability, maintained a quiet harem inside the White House. Donald Trump, in turn, represents the alpha return to daylight, brazen, instinctual, and unembarrassed by his appetites. He reveals that even in the democratic age, charisma and audacity still command the crowd. The form changes, the energy endures. King Henry VIII embodies the classic alpha, physically imposing, magnetic, extravagant, and ruthlessly ambitious. Born to a quiet but effective Sigma father, Henry VII, and a regal alpha mother, Elizabeth of York, Henry was never meant to rule. But when his brother Arthur died, destiny elevated him. At 18, he ascended the Tudor throne, the ideal Renaissance prince, athletic, musical, commanding, a master of spectacle. Henry's 6 wives reveal both his power and his pattern. He tired of his chastity wife, Catherine of Aragon, and when the Pope refused to annul the marriage, Henry tore England from the Roman Catholic Church to marry the alluring baddie Anne Boleyn. When she failed to produce a male heir, he had her executed and took the alpha Jane Seymour, who bore him a son but died in childbirth. His next wife, the Delta Anne of Cleves, was annulled for being too ugly. His 5th, the youthful Gamma Catherine Howard, dared to cheat on the king and paid for it with her head. His final wife, the loyal, broody Catherine Parr, nursed him through sickness and age. Henry's approach to women, to church, and to subordinates was identical, single-minded, decisive, and absolute. Even the great Sigma Thomas More, whose intellect and conscience challenged him, was sent to the scaffold when he defied royal will. Henry ruled by appetite and command, and through that will, he remade a kingdom. Even in decay, he remained the very image of majesty, broad, jeweled, immovable. England's Sun King before the French had theirs, the definitive alpha ruler. If Henry VIII shows the golden face of alpha power, Ivan the Terrible reveals its shadow. Born of 2 alphas, a commanding father and a brilliant, ambitious mother, Ivan inherited the full force of charisma and will. Both died before he reached 10, his father of illness, his mother likely poisoned. The boy grew up amid the cruelty of the Russian boyars, the noble class, who beat and starved him, turning him inward and hard. At 17, he crowned himself Tsar of all Russia, a title no one had claimed before, and forged an empire through equal parts brilliance and brutality. When intrigues deepened, he briefly abdicated and retired to a monastery. The boyars rejoiced until chaos broke out and they begged him to return. When he did, he returned transformed, the Tsar as wrath. He founded the Oprichnina, Russia's first secret police, to crush the boyars and terrorize the realm into obedience. His mood swung from ecstatic prayer to homicidal rage. In one fit, he struck and killed his own son and heir, Alexei. Yet his charisma endured. He was Russia's father and its scourge, the man whose will defined the state. When Ivan died, the empire fell apart. His successor, his surviving son Fyodor, was a dim-witted but kind-hearted Delta, loved but utterly incapable of rule. Without Ivan's iron hand, Russia plunged into the time of troubles. His power was terrible, but it was cohesive. Ivan alone had held Russia back from the abyss. If Henry VIII ruled through splendor and Ivan through terror, George Washington ruled through restraint, the democratic alpha whose mastery came from composure. His soldiers saw it first at Valley Forge. Freezing, starving, ready to break, they watched their commander ride among them, silent and unbowed. His presence steadied the revolution itself. Washington was not the most intellectual of the American founders. His sigmas, Hamilton and Jefferson, outshone him in intellectual rigor, but none matched his authority. His gift was equilibrium. He embodied order and dignified majesty. When rebellion erupted in Pennsylvania over the whiskey tax, Washington acted decisively. He personally led 13,000 troops to enforce federal law. He didn't have to fire a shot. His mere presence quelled the revolt. He was elected president unanimously, twice, and refused a third term, knowing that all power held too long can turn to tyranny. He retired to Mount Vernon and died within 3 years, as if sensing that his part in the play of history was complete. Washington understood that leadership is theater. The measured gestures, the immaculate dress, the deliberate silence, all part of the aura that commands loyalty. He transformed dominance into dignity, pride into discipline, and authority into example. In doing so, he proved that the alpha archetype could survive in democracy and even ennoble it. Across history, the alpha male has taken many forms. Henry VIII, the classic alpha, ruling through charisma, lineage, and display. Ivan the Terrible, the dark alpha, commanding through fear and awe. And George Washington, the democratic alpha, mastering himself to master others. All are expressions of the same gravitational force, dominance united with magnetism. Whether adored or dreaded, they shape their eras in their own image. In the next episode, we'll explore the alpha in the modern world, how he survives in an age of equality, what forms his power now takes, and why, even today, people can't resist him. Subscribe and continue climbing the hierarchy.